I'd like to welcome everyone to the Limitless event. I'm Chelsea Garrison, the coordinator of this event. I'm the Student Development Specialist with the Career Services Department here at the Southeast Campus. This event was created for National Disability and Employment Awareness Month. I would like to introduce you to our speaker. Ryan Anderson attended Tarleton State University and earned his BS degree in psychology and later earned his MS degree in counseling psychology. He attended Texas Tech Law School, earning his JD degree. He passed the bar test on his first attempt. He is a lawyer and the owner of 512 Media, a business consulting firm. He's done all this while being fully blind. He's here to share his powerful story and speak about living life without limits.
Imagine waking up in total darkness. You're 11 years old, you don't know where you are, you don't know why you can't see, you don't know what's wrong. Your first thought is, Mom! I grew up in a dairy in the middle of nowhere, Central Texas. I led a pretty normal childhood. My time was spent riding horses, playing army, and like all good older brothers, tormenting my younger sister. Around the age of 8 or 9, I discovered football. It was my dream to become an NFL quarterback, and I did everything I possibly could to ensure that my dream was going to come true. I spent hours throwing a football at a tire, just like my idol, Joe Montana. I even stole plays from my favorite video game, Super Tecmo Bowl, to use during our Sandlot football. My dreams were taken from me. My prognosis was grim. So grim that they gave my mom a locket of my hair as I was going into surgery. I had a brain abscess. My brain swelled, which resulted in the loss of my vision and paralysis on my right side. Things were different now. Days were no longer spent working on becoming the best quarterback ever. They were now spent working on regaining mobility in my right side. Days and nights were spent crying with my parents, crying for the loss of my vision, crying for the loss of my future, crying for the loss of my dreams. My identity as an intellectual stud athlete was gone. Who was I now? If not for my parents, I would have been lost. My mom spent hours crying with me, talking to me, and supporting me. She was always there to talk about my fears, and she did everything she possibly could to ensure that I received the best education possible. She fought, and I mean she fought, to ensure that I was going to be educated to the same level as any other kid. My dad, however, was there for me as a young man. Immediately after coming home from the hospital, he started taking me weightlifting with him. His best friend and weightlifting partner was an ex-Canadian football player. Not only was weightlifting amazing physical therapy, but the locker room relationship that I had with my dad and his friends, they kept me sane, folks. I mean, they did not cut me any slack because I couldn't see. They harassed me, they joked with me, and they pushed me. They were instrumental in laying the foundation of who I would become as a young man. The start of my 7th grade year of school was extremely difficult. All my friends were practicing and talking about football. It was just further confirmation that my dreams were dead. After struggling through my 7th grade year, my parents and I decided it would be best for me to ensure my success in life as a blind person if I were to attend the Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired in Austin, Texas. It was one of the best and worst times of my life. Here I was, 13 years old, attending a new school in a new city with a bunch of kids I didn't know, and living there without my parents. Let's just say it was hard. While there, I did run track and wrestle and gained a true appreciation of how absolutely lucky I was not to have suffered severe brain damage. So many of the kids that attended the School for the Blind had mental, emotional, and physical complications in addition to not being able to see. I was just blind. What did I have to worry about? The loss of my vision was more than just the loss of my sight. It was the loss of my freedom and independence. The ability to get up and go and do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it was gone. It was just another kick in the pants for not being able to see, for the loss of my vision. It was terrible. All of this started to change when I went to the Seeing Eye in Morristown, New Jersey, and received my first Seeing Eye dog the summer before my senior year of high school. I don't care what anybody says. You simply cannot look cool walking with a cane. Basically, a cane is an extension of your arm and runs into something before you do, letting you know you either need to stop or move a different direction. A dog, however, is simply poetry in motion. You just flow around obstacles. It's beautiful. So, my Seeing Eye dog and I, here we go. Before we go to my Seeing Eye dog and I, here's an example of how much confidence and freedom comes from having a Seeing Eye dog. So I'm up in New Jersey getting my second Seeing Eye dog. And at the time, each instructor had 5 students. And typically, you're paired up with a student who walks a similar speed with you. Well, apparently I walk too damn fast, and I haven't had a partner since my first Seeing Eye dog. And we are walking a block, and there happens to be a working pair in front of us at the corner. So my instructor's like, when you get up there, ask them if you can go before them, since you walk so much faster than they do. So I'm like, okay, no problem, we'll do it. So I get up to the corner, ask them, they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I'm standing there telling my dog, left, which is our command to turn left. He's not going anywhere. So I'm like, well, I guess we gotta be more serious about this. So I'm like, left. Well, all of a sudden, he jumps up high left, and we're taught to move with our dog. So I jump up high left with him, and we finish the block and get to the end of the block, and my instructor is just rolling laughing. I mean, he is rolling. And apparently, I had just jumped over a 2-foot-tall planter and didn't know it. That is the type of freedom and independence and confidence a Seeing Eye dog gives you that you would never do with a cane. Your dog has your best interests at heart, and you just trust that he's going to keep you safe. That's the difference between having a dog and a cane. So, now, my Seeing Eye dog and I attacked college the same way we attacked life. We had a ball while working hard. College was so much different than high school. When I was in high school, we lived 15 miles from town. You know, hanging out with friends didn't happen much because they would have to drive out, pick me up, drive back into town, do whatever we were going to do, drive back out again, drop me off, and drive back, all before their curfew. It didn't happen. But college, we all lived in the dorms together. We all did everything as a group. I was just another member of the group. It's no fun doing stuff by yourself, so we just went and did and had a ball. And yeah, college was completely different because of that. I did actually, shockingly enough, receive a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in counseling psychology while I attended Tarleton State. And I decided that was not what I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing. So after teaching at my university for a year, I attended Texas Tech University School of Law. Texas Tech is in Lubbock, for those of you that don't know, and it's about 4.5 hours from where I grew up. And while I was in undergrad, my mom was always there to help me with writing papers and studying. The technology at the time really wasn't that good. The screen reading programs would do little more than read a document and allow you to type. You never knew when something was bolded, you never knew when it was centered, when it was italic, when it was left or right justified. And don't even get me started on how poor it did with the internet. So it just made sense to have somebody there to help me do something. I mean, what took a normal sighted person 30 minutes to do would take me 2, 3, 4 hours. And I just didn't have the time for that. So when I decided to attend Texas Tech School of Law, I did so barely knowing how to run a computer. But I figured, hey, you can figure it out. I always had. Well, by the time I got to law school, not knowing how to run a computer was the least of my concerns. The first major issue we had was publishers did not want to give me my textbooks in a digital format. They were worried that I was going to give them to my classmates for free, and they were going to get screwed out of their textbook commissions. Well, for those of you that do not know, you read between 30 and 50 pages per night, and you have classes 4 days a week. So by the time I got my textbooks, 8 weeks into the semester, I was already several thousand pages behind my classmates. The second issue was I was told before I started law school that I should take one less class. Again, because it takes so much longer to do things as a blind person, that was the recommendation. Well, like I said, my arrogance took over, and I thought, why would I want to take one less class? I had never taken a reduced load before. I can handle this. The one piece of advice I did take, however, was I did have 2 amazing assistants while in law school. They helped me study and research and write. The problem ended up being was in law school, most of your classes, your grade is based on one exam at the end of the semester. Maybe a little class participation, but like that is your grade. And it's recommended that you start studying about 6 weeks before the exam. Well, shockingly enough, I actually listened to this piece of advice and didn't start studying until 6 weeks before the exam. The problem ended up being all of my assistants were law students with me. They had exams the exact same time of the year that I did. So through no fault of their own, I simply could not get enough face-to-face time with my assistants. You know, that first semester of law school, that first year of law school was so hard because of all these factors. I remember being on the phone with my dad, and I'm venting, and when I vent, I get very loud, I talk very fast, I go on a while. It's a process. And I'm complaining about not having my books and how long things are taking and how unfair this is. I mean, I am pissed. And I'm going on and on. And I just remember my dad stopping and being like, Ryan, do you want to quit and do you want me to come get you? And I just remember stopping and thinking, being like, no, of course not. That's the furthest thing from my mind. I'm just complaining about this. Come on now. Well, all of those factors were simply too much. I failed out of law school. I was like, what? Like, you're kidding me. I was so angry and embarrassed at myself. I had never failed at anything academically in my entire life. And basically, I was given 3 options. I could start up exactly where I was in law school, and I had 1 semester to get my GPA to a 2.0. I could start over completely. My records would show that I had taken the classes before, but with no grades, and I could quit. Well, I hated my first year of law school. Anybody who knows me went to law school, it's like the worst year of school ever. It's not fun. It's just horrible. So I wanted to start up exactly where I was and go for the 2.0. The decision wasn't up to me. My professors voted for me to start over, and I was so angry at them. I did not want to do it. But it was the best decision they possibly could have made for me. there is no way I could have gotten my GPA to a 2.0. So I started over law school with a new attack plan. We started ordering my textbooks 6 weeks before the start of every semester. I did actually take one less class that first year of law school, and I started studying with my assistants basically from day one of the semester. So when it came down to the end, I didn't have to worry about getting so much face-to-face time with them. And I went from failing out of law school to not only graduating, but passing the Texas bar, which is one of the 3 toughest bars in the nation, on my first try. So, thank you. Surprisingly enough, I got a job pretty quick out of law school. I became in-house counsel for a small engineering firm in Round Rock, Texas. Hated it. I am not a sit behind the desk all day research and writing kind of guy. I'm very outgoing, very social. I'm a very positive thinker. One of my problems with law was it always seemed to be such a negative mindset. You were worried about who might screw you out of what might go wrong, and I'm more like, how's this going to work? How are we going to make this work? So I ended up starting a single-family home. We buy single-family homes, we fix them up, and we sell them. And I just love the idea of helping somebody out of a bad financial situation who has a home that's been, it's older, it's been neglected for various reasons, it has a foundation issue, has a roof issue. They're probably not going to be able to sell it on the open market anyway because no bank is going to give them a loan on that. So we help them out of that bad situation, we buy their home, we fix this home up, and we turn it into a beautiful home and make it into some family's new dream home. And I just love that idea. And after starting my own business, I got bit by the business bug. So I started reading everything I could about business. I listened to podcasts. My friends are businessmen. We talk about business all the time. And I started 512 Media, which is a small business consulting firm, and we help small businesses do the fundamentals better than anybody else. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of my life story, but I've been told for years that I should speak. And I never really wanted to do it because I don't think that anything that I've accomplished is truly all that amazing. I mean, I'm just living my life. What's so amazing about that? Well, I think within that question is the answer. The fact that I simply live my life in many ways as if I had never lost my vision has allowed me to do things that many people think I shouldn't be able to do. I'm not putting anybody else's preconceived notions of what a blind person can't or can do upon myself. I'm simply living my life. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I can do anything any sighted person can do. It's simply not the case. I mean, how many of us here can, I can't fly a plane, but how many of us here can, right? Where it really shows up are in the little things. I call an Uber or a Lyft. Which one of the 15 cars that's outside is the one that I need to get? Everything nowadays is a touch screen. How do you run it if there's no buttons? How do you run it if it doesn't talk? And the one that I know all of you are thinking, how does you know what color his clothes are? Well, the answer to those questions are, you simply just figure them out. Uber or a Lyft, I called them before and say, hey, I'm the guy with the golden dog, look for me. Touchscreens, I avoid them at all costs. There's really not much way around them. And as far as my clothes are concerned, we label them. And that's the point. Everybody in life has things that they aren't good at, that they simply can't do. Simply can't do. So hang on a second, simply can't do. Sorry, I'm having a brief brain lapse. Anyway, simply can't do. So Words, as much as I hate to admit it, hang on, simply can't do. So basically, I maximize my strengths while minimizing my weaknesses. And that's something everybody here can do. Don't be picking a major because it's what your parents do or it's what your parents told you should be doing. You may not have the personality or the skill set to be good at it or to enjoy your job. And you're going to spend the rest of your life in a miserable job trying to please somebody else. Once you realize who you truly are, what you're truly good at, what you really want to do, life becomes easy, folks. It really does. As much as I hate to admit it, words have power. Once you place a word on something, you label and you categorize it. And with labels come definitions, and with definitions come stereotypes, and with stereotypes come expected behaviors. Before you know it, all blondes are ditzy, all super tall guys play basketball, and all blind people wear dark sunglasses and walk with a cane. That's why I reframed my blindness from a disability into my greatest challenge. I'm a competitor by nature, and competitors thrive on challenges. It's what energizes us. It's what motivates us. And challenges, by definition, are hard but beatable. Sometimes challenges kick your ass, and all you can do is pick yourself up, dust yourself off, reevaluate, and go at it again. Sometimes you kick the challenge's ass, and you realize, you know what? That wasn't that big of a deal. Most of the time, however, you barely overcome the challenge. And that's the point. Everybody in life has challenges, and everybody's challenges are different. That means I'm no different than you guys. I simply have different challenges. So what challenges are you allowing to hold you back? Are you dyslexic? Do you come from a poor family? Are you super attractive and no one values you for anything other than your looks? Well, if you allow these challenges to hold you back, failure is on you. The great thing about speeches like this are they leave you energized and ready to conquer the world. Then 3 days go by, and you can barely remember what in the hell I even spoke about. That's why I want to leave you guys with this. The most powerful ability that any of you possess is the power of choice. The thoughts that you have, the things that you feel, absolutely create the reality that you experience. I chose to believe I was a normal guy who happened to be blind versus a blind guy that happened to be normal. Like I said before, this is a small but profound difference in the way people view individuals with disabilities. The thoughts that you have, like I said, absolutely influence the way the way you behave and the actions you have. If you think you're smart enough to go to college, you probably are. If you think you're too stupid to go to college, you probably are. These are both potential realities that your thoughts, actions, and behaviors turn into reality. Once you choose to believe something about yourself and your circumstances, your thoughts, actions, and behaviors really do follow. If you believe you're smart enough to go to college, you take that entrance exam. You write those essays. You study for those midterms and finals. If you think you're too stupid to go to college, you never take those entrance exams. You never write those essays. Because why waste the time? You're not smart enough to get in anyway. Look how one simple thought, one series of thoughts absolutely affect the way the rest of your life turns out. Like I said, I chose to believe I was a normal guy who happened to be blind versus a blind guy that happened to be normal. I chose to be social and outgoing. I chose to continue with law school after failing out. These decisions are absolutely affecting the reality in which I'm currently living. They are continuing to affect the reality in which I'm currently living. You know, your thoughts and behaviors absolutely have the ability to bring order from chaos. They have the ability to create the reality that you want to live. They have the ability to create your reality. Thanks. So I would like to open this up for some questions. I'm very open, honest. I do not hold anything back. So if you have any question, no matter how offensive you think it might be or dumb you might think it might be, feel free to ask. And we've also, I think, have a couple questions that have been submitted to kind of get the ball rolling. So y'all have time to think.
These questions were submitted by some people in my office. How do you know where you are going?
You know, the reality is, for most time, unless you've been there before with somebody else, you're really not going to know where you're going. You end up learning where you're going. Like if I were to walk in here by myself, I would have to ask for assistance because you have no way of knowing what that building looks like. Once you've been there before, though, you start to get a mental picture of how things look, where the intersections are, where the doors are, where the stairs are. Like, for example, I live downtown Austin, Texas, and the great thing about downtowns is they're a perfect grid. And typically, number streets run one direction, and name streets run a different direction. Well, that's a very simple mental construct to put in your head. You just get the grid, and you just kind of figure out where you're going. So that kind of answers that question.
Which do you think is easier, being blind or losing your vision later in life?
Being born blind. So, as y'all can tell from my story, I was not born blind. I lost it a month from being 12 at 11 years old, basically. And this is a really complicated answer because it depends on how you look at it. In my opinion, when you are born blind, I think functionally it's tougher and emotionally it's easier. Let me explain. If you've never seen before, how do you describe to somebody what the color red looks like, the color orange, or the color green, or what an intersection looks like? Because the typical examples are, it's a Y intersection, it's a cross intersection. It kind of looks like an X. Well, if you've never seen any of those, how do you describe that to somebody? That just, to me, makes functionally getting around navigating much more difficult. Whereas emotionally for them, I think it's easier because they don't know what they're truly missing out on. They don't know how beautiful a sunrise is or a sunset, or they'll never see the joy and the smile on their mother's face, their sister's face, their significant other's face. Whereas when you are born sighted and lose your vision, I think it's the opposite. Functionally, it's easier because you can use those. The intersection looks like a cross, looks like a Y, looks like an X. I know what red looks like. Whereas emotionally, it's tougher because I know absolutely what I'm missing. I know how beautiful those things are. So.
Okay.
Give me a second. I have notes. All right. So recently I heard 1 in 3 teens commit suicide. Did you ever consider this? And what was it that made you keep going if you did?
That's absolutely a good question I never thought about. The answer to that question is absolutely not. I have never considered suicide. And I don't know why. when I lost my vision, it was, I didn't necessarily put it in the speech so much, but it was really, really tough. I mean, the biggest thing for me was not being able to play football and not being able to drive. I mean, I'm from a small town, and, you know, being a stud athlete and, you know, having a car to drive are huge status symbols. And I wasn't able to have those. So I never went through that time in life where, as a young man, you feel invincible. I almost died. Like, I knew I could die at any moment for any reason. And I never had those feelings of invincibility. And I did go through some depression, but I had my parents there. We talked, we cried. And I was really lucky that I knew I maintained my intelligence. I'm able to go on there and get a law degree, get a master's degree, and get a job if I want to. All those help. And I work on myself every day, work on my mindset, make sure I'm positive, because life is fun, people. Yes, it has its ups and downs. Yes, it has its hard moments. But, you know, we live in a great country that we can at least have the opportunity to make our lives into something better if we choose to. And I think that's what kept me from wanting to do suicide. There's too much cool stuff out there that I did not want to miss out on. Because suicide is kind of a permanent decision. And I kind of like having backup plans, and that one doesn't have much of a backup plan. So, that's a good question, though.
I have 2 questions, by the way.
Ask as many as you want.
All right. So, how did you become so proficient in your studies compared to your classmates? And let's see. And what enabled you to pass the bar on your first try?
As far as proficiency at my studies, I had really good assistants. I realized in law school that I was never going to be the top graduate in law school. And that was kind of difficult to accept because it wasn't in my speech, but because of all my help in undergrad and grad school, I actually graduated as the outstanding graduate for my undergraduate college and had to give the speech. So I actually was like the #1 student in my undergraduate class. So I had done well. And I just realized law school wasn't something that was really, or law in general, wasn't something that was a great personality or intellectual fit. I mean, I could do it, but I wasn't going to be top 8 student. Plus, I simply couldn't. There wasn't enough hours in the day to dedicate the time. Law students spend hours studying. I didn't have the time. There wasn't enough hours in the day. So I came to grips with what the grades I was going to make, and I was okay with it, and I studied to the level that I needed to. I had amazing assistants, and they helped tremendously as far as quizzing me and helping me do my research. And as far as the bar is concerned, they have really great study programs that you pay for, study classes, bar preps, and almost everything was online at that time. So I watched the videos just like everybody else did, and then I read through the outlines that were on digital format, and then I had an assistant come over 2 or 3 hours a day, and we quizzed me, and we studied. I knew, the way I learned best is I learned from doing. This sounds weird. I'm 2 things. I'm a very visual learner because I was born sighted, like super strong, and I'm also a kinetic learner. I learn by doing. So quizzing me and me getting the questions wrong and then working through why they were wrong is the best way for me to learn. So I had figured that out by that point in time, and that's the way I studied for the bar.
This is the last one, I promise.
Oh, that's what it means you want.
So what made you successful at your business?
Same thing, hard work, dedication, being social, being willing to go to events like this and put yourself out there, being willing to go to organizations and meet people, being willing to cold call and have people not really want to do your business. I'm always learning, I'm always experimenting, I'm always researching. That's important to being successful in business too, because what works today may not work tomorrow. But the fundamentals are always the key, and in anything in life, I think if you're going to learn anything, once you learn the fundamentals, that's 80% of what you're going to learn for that topic anyway, and then everything else is just kind of icing on the cake. So when it comes to your classes, be really focused on those fundamentals, because it makes everything else that you learn easier, and that holds true later in life too.
Okay, I have a question. I'm working with a social work degree, and I'm just curious about your service dog. Were those services readily available to you? Were they told to you, or did you have to go and look for those yourself? And did you have to fund all those yourself?
That's a good question. So, like I said, I'm from a very small town, and one of the things that was not in my speech was how really horrible the services for people who couldn't see in that area were. And so, this is probably not everyone's experience, but my experience was we didn't know anything. We had to figure out everything on our own. And that's unfortunate, and luckily my mom was a teacher at the time, so she was in the education system. So she had enough resources to be able, she could ask the right questions. She could at least figure out who to ask the right questions for, or to. And not everybody has that, and that was amazing. And as far as seeing eye dogs, we had seen enough of them out there, and we knew they existed. And I guess my mom had done the research at the time, because like I said, I was 16 when I got my first. And the original Seeing Eye Dog School in America is the Seeing Eye. I think it was 1925 or 9 when it was founded. I should know this. I just got back in April with my newest dog. And they were the original and had the best reputation. And I got in so young because we happened to know a guy who kind of knew me, who worked for the school and had a Seeing Eye Dog, and put in a really great recommendation for me, because about the absolute youngest they will give a dog to somebody is 18 years old. And like I said, I was 16, almost 17. And the reason being is because the dog works for your affection. And if it gets its affection from everybody else, in theory, it's not going to work for you. That's really not how it works. If you're a good enough owner, your dog will work for you because your dog loves you, if other people pet it or not. So anyway, they don't think most people at 16 years old are responsible enough to not allow their classmates to pet their dog, not to make that dog, this is what makes me popular. This is why people come be my friend, because I have a dog. And so I was super lucky to have someone who said, this kid can handle it. And did you have another part to your question that I'm missing? Anyway, that. Okay. That was the part.
Yes.
Thank you. It is available to me. Okay. The really cool thing about my school, and I'm not sure how other schools work, is there are several things that I think are key to my school. One of them is, we'll get to your answer in a second. It'll get there. One of them is we actually leave the school with ownership of our dog, meaning that dog is mine. They can't come take my dog. Like they can't tell me how to work my dog. They can't tell me anything. I own that dog. Other schools, apparently, you kind of have almost like a lease of your dog. They can come back and take your dog from you. They can come back and tell you how to run your dog. I don't like that philosophy. I guess because I'm from Texas and we're an ownership state. I like ownership of my dog. And that's one of the reasons why. And as far as availability, the really amazing thing about it is you go and get your first dog, it costs you $150. Every dog after that is $50, and it's been that way since that school started. And the reason they're able to do that is because they have a huge trust fund that pays for everything. And when I came back with Ziggy, like I said, I came back with him in April, the number was he cost $65,000 is what he cost. Now, the reason it's so expensive is because they do things like they fly me up there and back, no cost. When I'm there, I have a private room with a bathroom and everything, and they come clean your room and make your bed every day. They feed you 3 amazing meals every day. They have on-site vets. They have on-site cleaning staff. They have on-site kennel. They have on-site breeding programs. So when you start figuring all that kind of stuff in, that's why they're $65,000. So not many people, I don't care who you are, sighted or not, can afford $65,000 every 7 or 8 years. I mean, yeah, it's a car, but kind of not really. So it's really amazing that it's all done through trust. And people can donate to the school if they want to. So like I said, the CNI. And that's why it's available. Yeah.
How do you cook?
That's a good question. Not well, no, actually. Shockingly enough, I do cook very well. Sometimes one of the reasons I didn't want to speak for a long time was I don't think in a lot of ways I'm representative of what blind people do. And this is one of them. I have never been formally taught to cook, actually. I've called my mom up a few times and been like, I'm thinking about doing this. How do I do it? And she'll tell me over the phone, right? This is not how you're supposed to learn to cook. So I actually, believe it or not, kind of learned to cook by sound and feel. So I cook bacon and eggs every day, and you'll notice this now that I tell you this. Bacon, as it cooks, as it gets hotter, it pops, right? It pops, pops, pops. As it gets more cooked, it pops slower. So I kind of just listen to when the pops get slower, and you know what? It's time to flip it, or it's time to take it off. Scrambled eggs, I cook scrambled eggs because I've never learned to do other kind of eggs, and they're my favorite eggs. Well, as you're stirring them around, you can feel them get thicker. You can feel them get heavier. You can feel the resistance. So you just kind of learn this is about the right consistency, and they're done. Steaks, I cook steaks on a grill. This is my dad to thank. I time them, you know. I get it really hot, put them on the timer, time to flip it, boom, time to flip it, done. Stuff like that. You know, you can say you just kind of figure it out. I do, however, do not do ovens. I really don't like the idea of sticking my arm in 5 sides of a hot thing. I just think that's not how I'm geared, so I haven't done any casseroles or anything like that. I could probably if I truly wanted to, but I haven't been quite that crazy yet. So, yeah. Thanks.
Hello. I am enjoying your personality.
Oh, thanks.
You have a great blend of confidence, not arrogance, and a lot of humility. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Okay, that's actually funny that you asked that, thank you. So I probably was not born this way. I think I was probably born a pretty arrogant little kid. If I had never lost my vision, life would have been very easy. Because I'm from a small town, I would have been good at sports. Sports would have been easy, you know, cars would have been easy, school would have been easy, and I probably would have had a lot of attractive female girlfriends. You know, things would have been easy. And, you know, that really, when life's that easy at a young age, it's really easy to be arrogant because you haven't experienced enough suffering, enough pain to truly be empathetic and understanding to other people who aren't as fortunate as you. And losing my vision and almost dying, like I said, you can't be that arrogant kid. You know you're mortal. You know things out of your control absolutely affect your future. So it's really hard to be arrogant when you know that you could cross the street and be killed. And so that helped tremendously. My parents were also a huge help as far as helping me do anything I wanted to do, not holding me back when I decided to do crazy things. Like I've been to New York City several times by myself. I've been to LA by myself. I mean, I learned to snow ski after losing my vision. I learned to surf. Like they've never held me back from that kind of stuff. And you know, having that, if not overt support, that kind of at least don't go do something stupid support. It's a lot. It's a lot. And then I worked really, really hard on regaining the confidence that I lost after losing my vision. It's been a long journey, and it's been a purposeful journey. Because this is one of the secrets to life, I think. Life is simple when you're confident. It's so much easier when you believe in yourself because, you know, we all make decisions that we have no clue how they're going to turn out, and that's the reality of it. But if you believe in yourself and you believe, I made the right decision at the time with the information that I had, that's really all you can do, and how it washes out is how it washes out. And once you kind of realize that it's a whole lot easier to live life as a confident person than an insecure person, it kind of makes that decision easy. So it's been a long process, been a long journey. Yeah.
Hi, so I did some research on a phenomenon I heard about in a commercial named Non-24, and basically it's where the body's natural clock can adjust to, I guess, not being able to tell whether it's day or night. Do you struggle with anything similar to that?
Okay, what Non-24 is, so for those of you that don't know, is melatonin is produced that makes you sleep. That's the drug in the brain that makes you sleepy. Well, it's kind of light dependent. So if you're not seeing light, the theory is the melatonin is not being produced at the right time, so you're like awake when you should be awake, you're awake at night when you should be asleep, and you're sleepy during the day when you should be awake. It causes a lot of issues. I know a lot of blind people do suffer from that. If I do suffer from it, it's very, very slight. I don't think I do suffer from it too bad. However, it is really, really easy to get your days and nights turned around when you can't sleep because it is so, when you can't see, because it is so sun dependent. And if you're not seeing the sun and it always seems like it's night, 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. look kind of the same. So it's really easy to get your days and nights turned around, and you just have to be good about sleep schedules. I'm not always the best. I like to read a little bit, and before I know it, it's midnight, and then I have to get up early. So I'm not always the best at it, but I've been lucky. I haven't had to deal with really severe non-24 like a lot of people do. So it's a good question, though.
So before you went to law school, did you actually go to a regular college before then?
I did. Tarleton State University is the biggest branch of the A&M system after A&M. And I went there and got my master's, and I got my bachelor's in psych and counseling and psych. And like I said, I had a ball. I mean, college was so much fun compared to high school because we were all there. We were all close. Like socially, this is how bad it was. I got through with college and undergrad before I was supposed to because I always took summer school. Not because I'm a nerd. It kept me there to be social. Like I was able to go out and do stuff with friends. Because like I said, my parents at the time lived 15 miles from town on a Cleachy Road. If I went home, my social life stopped. It wasn't going to happen. So, college was great that way. And I had a good time in college. And I had a good time in law school too, actually, after I failed out. They weren't law school friends. All my friends were waiters and waitresses at the Chili's that were literally 100 yards across the street from where I lived. And so I was there every day eating. This is before I cooked all the time, by the way. So.
I'm not sure if I'm phrasing this right, but what is the most unique experience you've had that you didn't think you would have being blind?
That's a tough question. Unique. It probably wouldn't be one experience. It would probably be the summation of a bunch of experiences from the standpoint of, it would be, this is not going to go where you think it's going to go on. So, one of the things that I think is so sad about not being able to see is people are scared to ask people, this is probably people with disabilities in general, but definitely for people who can't see, they're scared to ask you questions. And that's one of the reasons I'm up here speaking is because, I think I should do my community service and be open and honest and answer questions because people need to know how life is different and what it's like and that we're normal and that we're fun. And one of the things that's been sad is how many people who have friended me and then later come back and said, I met this guy on the bus. He couldn't see, and I was being nice to him, and he was the biggest douche ever. And you hear that a lot. And some people with disabilities are angry and they're upset with good reason. It's not an easy life. I can't tell you how many times I've been frustrated over something small like my computer not working or the fact that I can't scan something by myself, or just whatever. Something simple like taxis are taking 30 minutes when they should be right around the corner. Just little things. It gets frustrating. And, it's not easy, and you do have to maintain a positive mindset. And I can understand why they're angry and upset, but that doesn't give you the right to be angry at the person asking the question. They're just being curious. They're just being nice. And if you're going to walk around life with that kind of negative attitude, you're going to attract what you put off, and you're going to attract people who are mean to you. One of the reasons I never wanted to speak was I was always afraid I was going to get the question, have you been bullied? I have never in my life been bullied. And I'm from a small town where bullying is, like, not my town, but in small towns in general, are known for bullying. They're known for cliques. I grew up in a locker room. I'm smart aleck by nature. I harass, I joke. I have never once been bullied. Everything that I got, I earned, I deserved because I was being I was treated no different. And so I'm always afraid I'm going to ask that question and someone's going to be like, what was your experience? Well, anyway, so I can understand why people with disabilities are upset. And my most unique thing is like how appreciative people are that I'm happy and that I'm outgoing and I'm social and that I'm different than that. And so that's why it's a summation of several events. That's been the most unique thing. It's how sad that they're experiencing things that make them angry and bitter, and how fortunate I've been that I'm happy, I guess. So. And there's a lot of inappropriate things that I've experienced that I can't talk about here, so anyway, we'll there. So.
So I notice the way you describe things is like
I did this.
through sound
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like that,
yeah.
especially when you describe the baking and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Is there a particular sound that you really enjoy that brings you happiness?
Probably not as far as sounds are concerned, but there are definitely sounds that irritate the holy hell out of me, like when it's those repetitive things that are like clicking constantly, or like water drip, 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 like a sink. Like those things you start to notice. It's not, okay, one of the questions that you get is, I've gotten a lot is, now that you can't see, are your other senses like supersonic? Okay, no. They are, yeah, there's no daredevil here, okay? They are better, but not because they physically improve. I think you pay more attention to them, and you make them the best that they can be within the upper limit of what they naturally could be. So I can't hear 100 times better than someone sighted. I just pay more attention, and so it appears that I hear better. So like I will notice things like a car off somewhere else, or someone dropping something, or someone, and I'll be like, watch out because this is happening. And someone's like, how did you know that? Well, it's because I'm paying attention, okay? Not because I'm amazing. It's really and I'm paying attention to something different than you. So this will be funny that you say that. One of the things, even though I didn't want to go be a psychologist, I'm really, really good at it. Not because I'm amazing, but because I pay attention to different things than people who are sighted are. So when you can see, you learn to control your facial expressions, control your hands a little bit. Like you learn to kind of hide your emotions when people, but you never focus on your tone of voice, how fast you talk, how slow or high. Those tell so much about your emotional state. So I'm amazing at keying in on people when they're upset or sad or whatever. So, so like I said, it's not that amazing. You just learn to pay attention to different things, which is why things irritate you more when you can't see as far as sound, like the drips. Or I don't like going to really, really loud restaurants because I'm there to have a conversation, and that impedes my conversation. There's nothing worse than going, huh? What'd you say? Multiple times. So it's more that than probably anything that I absolutely appreciate sound-wise. You're going to laugh about this. This is totally unrelated. So I told you I was a really, really strong visual learner. Well, what I didn't tell you was I'm such a strong visual learner that when I could see, they wanted to put me in special ed because my auditory skills were so poor. And my mom's like, he's making good grades. Don't put him in special ed. And then what happens? I lose my vision and have to become an auditory learner. It was a definite adjustment, let me tell you. I mean, I learn well, but I don't learn near as well by listening as I would if I had read it or seen it. So I just, doesn't pertain to anything. It's kind of a funny story. Wow.
Any more questions?
No?
Nope.
Okay. I would like to close with this. I'm a huge believer in personal responsibility, not because of any kind of political or moral reasoning. I'm a huge believer in personal responsibility because as long as I'm the one making the decisions that control my life, control my destiny, I can work toward, like you see, a happy person. There's no worse feeling in life, and I mean no worse feeling in life, than the feeling of helplessness that often comes from having a disability. It really leaves you in this kind of world of chaos, kind of never really knowing how, or feeling, you feel like you never know how the universe is going to mess with you next. But by taking personal responsibility, by making those choices, that feeling of helplessness, it's gone instantly. You feel like your choices matter, that they are affecting your future, they are affecting your life. They take you from a helpless victim into the master of your own destiny. So the point of this is take personal responsibility for your life. Really start to realize that your choices, your decisions, your thoughts, your behaviors have actual consequences. And you can absolutely be the master of your life and determine, is it going to be a happy, positive life that I'm living, or is it going to be a negative life that I'm living? And that's what I want all of you to remember when you leave today. Not the stuff that I've done, but how your mindset can absolutely determine your future. That's it. Let's give it up for Chelsea. She put this thing together, and I think she did a great job. So,
Thank you. If you haven't signed in, please sign in. Thank you so much, Ryan, for your powerful story, your inspirational words. That was amazing.
thanks for having
you.
me.